Bonjour, je m'appelle Ryan. This is my video for my advanced Latin class 350 for Ursinus. My Catullus 63 poem, Addis, on topics I will describe in a minute. Let me just introduce my video first before I hop into it. I have pneumonia right now, so if I'm coughing a lot or try to have a shaky voice, that's why. And my room's a mess right now because I'm cleaning it for my party this weekend, if I can have it still with my sickness. But I'm not contagious, so cross the fingers in chat, please. So this will be a very informal video, research video on Catullus' 63 poem, which covers topics such as self-mutilation and self-harm. So I adult censored this video. So if it's not for you, click away. Don't give me crap for what I say in this video. It's harsh topics. So I'll be reading off my laptop screen. So if I'm looking down, that's why. I just kind of compiled a bunch of sources and resources on self-mutilation in ancient Rome, and also from Catullus 63. I'll read an excerpt from the poem and a translation, and also, yeah. So the title of this video, what I found online, is actually the ecstasy and the agony, the mania, manhood, and misery in Catullus 63. I found that online. I reworded it a little bit. It really describes gender identity crises and the struggles to survive in ancient Rome pretty beautifully. So I'll describe who Addis is so you guys know. In the poem, we read a couple of poems from Catullus and translate Catullus. I'm losing my voice already. I'll be fine. So yeah, let me fix my camera. And also in the background is an Ethel Cain album, Willoughby Tucker, I Always Love You. Devastating album for a devastating topic, so great idea. So Addis, a Greek youth, journeys to Phrygia, I don't know how you pronounce it, the home of the Greek goddess Cybele, I think Cybele or Cybele. Once there, he promptly castrates himself, then possessed by religious ecstasy, they call it, which I'll describe later. He performs a frenzied dance before falling asleep, very exhausted. When he awakens the next day, he realizes with horror that what he has done, and however, it is too late, and he must reign free to be Cybele's, it's C-Y-B-E-L-E, so Cybele, slave. One thing that's interesting is it's poem 63 by Catullus is written in a very vivid and sensual tone. The way when I read the excerpt, you'll see like it's in Galliambic, I don't know how you pronounce it, Galliambic pentameter, which is a very rare and not well-known pentameter in Latin poems. So it follows the beat of like cymbals and drums, which I think like the word Cybele kind of was weird that he did that, but very cool. I love Catullus. He's like my favorite Latin, so. It's a rare meter, as I said before. It was used in Cybele's worship. So, like I said before, cymbals and like clanging. Like, I just think that's beautiful that he made the poem in Galliambic pentameter. And, like, it's for this purpose. So, the use of animal imagery is also pretty interesting. So, I'll also talk about identity changes and kind of pronoun shifting in the poem. In the poem, like pronouns shifting back and forth between he and she after he emasculates and castrates himself. So he becomes the wild heifer, emphasized with loss of humanity and transformation to a wild creature after he castrates himself, which is pretty interesting. So this rug into the pronouns. So in Catullus, there's that shifting pronoun use of the protagonist Addis, the man who castrates himself, the youth man. Gender transformed after self-castration, the goddess Cybele. Initially, he is referred to with masculine pronouns while he has all male parts. But then the poem switches to feminine pronouns, and the poem switches the narrative, even altering between female and masculine self-identification things. Like, I am a woman, I a youth, I a Phoebe, I a boy, which is, like, fascinating, because in ancient Rome, you never hear about, like, pronoun shifting. So, like, this is groundworking things. So, I wish it was a program. Actually, that's weird to say. I don't wish it was a program. I don't think I'd watch it. You know, I watch a lot of weird films. I probably would. As the poem progresses, the pronouns, I typed this wrong. The person's gender fluctuates rapidly and manically, I say, between masculine and feminine as a struggle to reconcile with his past things and his future identities. So I think that's, like, fascinating to me. So here is a Latin excerpt. I will do my best to read it in my Latin accent. If there is one, I don't believe there is one. But I speak Russian and French, so it's going to be a mix of those. Super alta vectus ad celeri rati Maria fergurium ut nemasiatato cupidi pede telgatit. Adque apaca siluis remedita loca dei stimulatus ibi ferenti rabi vagus animus. Take a break. That was a lot. There's still more, there's like half of it left to go. I'm not great at reading Latin, but if this was a different language, that might have been better. Idaque ut relicta sensit sibi membra sin viro etiem recante terra sora sengor macula, my glasses are foggy, maculans nivea civitate sipit manibus live typem tubam sibilis tua meta initia. I want to like say it in like the foreign language, and then it like becomes Latin in a weird, like my professor knows, it becomes Latin in a weird language. So I'm going to stop there because there's a little more. But here's the English translation. When Attis over the deep seas by a swift raft taken, reached Desirus the I can never pronounce the word, Phrygian forest on a hasty foot, and went back to the dark places of the goddess surrounded by forests, and sighted there, roving by a furious madness in his soul. So this is like the mania. He sliced the weights of his groin with a clean flintstone, so a knife. So he sliced his, you know what, with a flintstone. And the earth stained, so as he sensed her, this is where it becomes weird, because now he's a her. Her members left without fertility, and stained the earth with flesh blood too. She hurriedly seized the light tambourine, and this is the religious mania. With snow-white hands, the tambourine, the tube of Cybele, with intuition writes, mother, and shaking the hollow skin of the bowl with tender fingers, trembling, starting to sing this to her companions. I could totally see this being like an A24 movie, a film. Like, this is like a beautiful piece of poetry and art, and it's just crazy this was written thousands of years ago. I won't read about that. But I've watched films where there is things that involve self-mutilation, unfortunately. The Piano Teacher is one of them. I won't give a whole list of them because I don't want people looking them up. But it's very interesting. So, now we're going to do some research into, like, self-mutilation in ancient Rome and why I think it should be talked about more and why these topics shouldn't be so censored right now. So, yeah. So, the cult of Cybele and Attis. So, there's self-mutilation in ancient Rome was practiced in specific contexts, primarily for religious rituals. So, it was primarily religious. Not like self-harm like you see today, like cutting, burning, head banging, and stuff like that. It wasn't, self-mutilation wasn't in that form too common. It was a sense to avoid military service with severe social and legal repercussions for non-ritualistic self-harm. So like if you were self-harming, like say, and nowadays, instead of going to the psychiatric ward, you would be like severely punished for like cutting your arm up for a non-religious purpose, which is very interesting and dark and cough break. And it's just interesting, like the fact that they can self-mutilate to evade these things and do these certain practices, but they're also it's so heavily looked down upon, obviously, but you know, it's different. So the first example is the cult of Cybele and Attis. So the priests of this cult, known as the Galli, were eunuchs who performed ritual castration as part of their initiation, an act of symbolic of self-mutilation of god Attis. During the annual festival called the Day of Blood, on March 24th, followers and high priests would flog or gash their bodies with sharp objects, dedicating their blood to the deities to support the resurrection of the god. So, it's like self-flagelling, they call it, which I don't know if you've ever read the book Lavonia by Tessa Mashfe. There is self-flagelling, and it's set in medieval times, not ancient Rome. But self-flagelling, like self-whipping, I don't know. Also, I wanted to do my project on martyrdom, and here I'm going to insert a brief notification on martyrdom because it's so fascinating to me. But this is not the whole video. So, professor, this is not the whole thing. I just had to insert here because they were on topic. So, martyrdom, there's a film called Faith Paradise, and she has a rosary with a bunch of beads on it, and she goes like this in front of a picture of Jesus Christ in order to martyr herself to be closer to God and to be more of a saint. As much of a saint as she come in without sin. So she inflicts pain on herself for the pain that Jesus spent as a martyr. So there's also mourning rituals. Mourning, not in like good morning, but like mourning as like, oh no, like bad mourning. That was not a good representation. But at Roman funerals, dramatic displays of mourning, some where it includes self-mutilation such as tearing hair and lacerating cheeks. So this is like for like the pain of the lives lost. Like you mourn for your lives lost, but you also take into account the pain they felt, and you try to emulate that pain onto yourself. So it's just a very fascinating topic to me. It's always been, I understand why it's censored, but it's so taboo that we can't even talk about it really in history classes. Like I never learned this stuff in my other history classes. And the fact that I can study it now is pretty interesting and cool. It's something I'm grateful for. Freedom of speech. And also flagellation. So ritual flagellation was also part of the certain Greco-Roman initiation rites and the Spartan cult of the Artemis Othia during the ritual of Lupercalia. Young men were whipped by bystanders with thongs of goat hide for purification and fertility purposes. So flagelling instead of self-flagelling, whipping other people. I always can never pronounce that word, flagell or flagelling, because when I think of that word, it reminds me of the thing in the cell, the tail that whips, the flagellum, but it's not that. But I think it is named that because it whips, in Latin it whips you. Random fact, biology fact. I was a biology student in high school for years. So to finish up this video, I just wanted in the comments, if you guys have any questions for, the music got a little louder, for my video, if you have any questions on self-mutilation. Such a crazy thing to say, but like if you have any questions on self-mutilation in ancient Rome, I'd love talking that more. Or if you want to hear, so my general reaction to this poem, I'll give you that right here, is I thought it was beautiful. And I don't mean that in a creepy, like sadomasochistic, like typical Ryan, like just over the top person. I mean in that it was worded so sensually and vibrantly that like it literally brought me like on the verge of tears, and I never cry, thank you to my medications. But it was so moving, and the fact that he did the pronoun shifts of how after he/she castrated himself and became a woman or a beast to worship Cybele. If I pronounce that wrong, please correct me. Cybele is pretty interesting. I also like the Galliambic pentameter. That was really interesting too. I've never read a poem like that. Normally they're like, or like Shakespeare, like iambic, or like we've read some other poems in Latin that are like meter based, but they're not like this meter. They're really not like this meter, which is very fascinating to me. And also, like, why don't we talk about these things more when we talk about ancient Rome? Like, they happened. Like, this is just a general reaction. I'm switching this video from multiple different points of view. I'm doing this very creative aspect, but like I'm trying to not to be creative, but I'm doing this in a way like I want to have multiple views and aspects on it from you guys. And like this is the more creative part. And I think we don't talk about these things because they're so like taboo or they're offensive. But like the fact that these things happened in ancient Rome is a huge thing occurring. Like even in our country and our other cultures today, there is self-harm, not just for self-harm, but for self-harm for ritualistic purposes. Like there's martyrdom still happening. It took place in medieval and Victorian era, and it switched purposes throughout ancient history, to modern time. And I just think it's really fascinating that it has like lingered and like we still don't talk about it. Like it's always like history class is like, this is the uncomfortable part, where it's like, yes, I know it is, but please still tell me. Like I'm not, I don't know. That's before the rant goes on too ranty. I just think this poem, I'm so lucky to do this project with you guys. And once again, if you have any questions, please comment. I hope I'll be back in class soon. I don't know if this video will be shown in class because, I don't know, because it's a little late, but I'm sick, so everybody knows I'm sick. I mean, I'm sick, but I'm not contagious. I mean, when I say that, because my party's this weekend, so you can still come to my party, but I'll be fine then. I'm on antibiotics, but I won't be hacking on you. So yeah, Catullus 63, beautiful poem. Check it out. If anyone wants to link to it, please let me know. I have the full link to the free poem and translation, English on the right side, Latin on the left side. So yeah, all right. Peace, Ryan.